we got to ask you, did you see the Chase Denny situation?
I saw a replay this morning. Yeah.
Got any?
I asked Josh what happened last night after the incident.
Josh is your spotter.
Josh Williams,
Yep.
and he didn't have much to say on it in the moment.
Yeah.
But I watched it this morning, and it was, I don't know. What do you guys think of it?
Well, hold up. Just Chase would not have been at your little after party last night.
No, he went home.
He went home.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have been an interesting – because William finishes second, Bubba third, right? Am I right about that?
Damn.
So you
Fourth, I
have the
think.
top three or top four, whatever it is, right there in your party. Now, I'm sure that we're celebrating your win and all that stuff, but I was wondering if Chase was there because then I think that even you winning that race, you'd had to go to Chase and say, okay, tell us what happened, right?
Hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's
So let me ask you this. It is. I know I'm putting you in a tough spot. So I talked to O'Donnell and Denny and everybody is pointing to SMT. Help me understand how much can you look at the SMT as evidence of anything, right? Is it black and white? Is it like, yep, there it is?
Yeah, I don't think it's black and white.
Yeah.
I feel like SMT is a good and a bad thing, right? It's good to look at sometimes, but I don't think you can fully rely on it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because you don't know.
You can't see intent.
No,
right?
you can't. And only that person is going to know what their intent was.
Yeah.
You can't get inside of someone's mind of what they were thinking in that moment, what was going on. You're trying to gather the car up, are you pissed? What's going through your head at that moment? And everything happens so fast. It's really hard. So I've seen they're all looking at SMT and here it is, the script in black and white. And I'm like, I don't think it's black and white.
Careful, yeah.
I
know. I didn't envy the position this puts NASCAR in to have to make a call based strictly off of SMT because pretty much, Chase did a good job not giving away too much in his interviews and so forth. Which everybody's learned that's kind of the route you need to take.
Right.
It's not to have an admission of guilt.
Yeah.
And so I think it puts NASCAR in a tough spot.
It is a tough spot, because you look at, the deal in Vegas last year with Bubba and Larson and what came out of that, right? And NASCAR had to make a decision on that. And they're kind of in a similar spot now to where they have to make a decision.
The precedent has been set.
It has. Yeah. And no matter what they end up doing, people are going to be upset, right? If they do something or if they don't, people are going to be upset. So it's just like whatever side of the fence you're on, whoever you're a fan of, you're going to agree with.
Which leads to the next thing I wanted to ask you. So there is, for whatever reason, man, and you've sort of been in the sport long enough to see this transition. There is a lot of drama, and I know there's certain people that seem to be in it a lot, so it could be situational, it could be certain new personalities that have come into the sport, but Chase and Denny have a history, but they're not problem causers. They kind of they don't do stuff all the time, but it seems like to me that, man, when you came into the sport, there was a lot of give and take. Hey man, go on by. I'll see you later. I'll help you here in this part of the race. You'll help me. You'll help me later or next week, right? It's gone.
Yeah.
What has happened? It's like everybody races the out of each other.
I think there's multiple reasons behind that. So I think the first reason is, when I initially got started in the Cup side, when was stage racing involved? 17?
17.
So my first year and a half of 15, 16, no stages, plenty of time. You just let them go, right? And you're like, all right, I'll maybe get you back later. And then maybe you'll throw me a bone later in the race. I think that was a big part of it. No stages now. Stages are super important. So if you're coming down to 40, 30 to go in a stage, you're not going to let anyone go. You have to go for every point. And I feel like it's the cars are so close to each other now, it's hard to make up spots anymore. It's hard to let someone go because you don't know if you're ever going to pass them back. Yeah. So I think there's some of that going on. It's why the racing is so tough nowadays. And
I'm fascinated.
It's not as much courtesy.
I know. I'm fascinated that it ever happened, that the shift. I didn't think we'd ever get to where we used to be. Like in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like they raced the hell out of each other back then. And then we kind of shifted into this, Mark Martin sort of ushered in this strategy of, man, when I catch you later, just let me go. Remember, I'll let you go. And so, but now it's like, watching Denny and Chase, watching that go down, and then later in the race, Stenhouse and Kyle Busch had this little episode for a couple laps that was super entertaining, where Stenhouse was pissed, and man, he finally did get back to Kyle and hooked him into the grass on the front straightaway, and Kyle saved it.
Oh, wow.
He sent
I
him
didn't
across
see
the
that
turf. He sent him across the turf, like hooked him as they're going through the travel, and if he could have gotten up on him a little further, I think he would have sent Kyle around. But Kyle was able to get out of it. I know that the drivers are matter and shit in those moments, but I can't tell you how much fun it is as a fan and even a broadcaster. It is so entertaining to have these moments happening in these races. They were not happening years ago.
Yeah.
It's
a balancing act, right? It's like, okay, you want entertainment, you want people to race hard, and from a in the booth perspective, a fan watching at home, that is exciting. And that causes, enjoyment in watching the sport and something to talk about.
Yep.
But then you have people that are like, giving you grief for racing hard. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what do you want? Do you want us to all just let each other go
Yep.
and be kumbaya and not have any intense moments? Or do you want us to race hard? Like, you can't be wishy-washy.
I know.
You know?
I hear you 100%. And when I hear the noise, for the lack of a better term, on the backside of something such as this week that went down with Chase and Denny, when I hear all of the noise on the backside, I got on social media for a minute during the race, and man, it was a blaze. There was both sides just like hammering each other.
Yeah.
And anybody that stepped in the room, like metaphorically, like you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
And so, and all of that noise is exactly like what NASCAR needs and should want, right? You would like, hey man, I want, hell yeah, we're making waves.
Yeah.
You've been in the booth, right? You've been in the booth, part of the broadcast. I want to ask you, like, you've probably called some snoozers and some very interesting races where some weird shit happened. And so now I would hope that having been in that perspective, you much better appreciate, I guess, like it used to annoy the shit out of me when I got my ass in some kind of a mess with another driver because they'd use that video or they'd ask me about it in the media center for weeks. And it's like, shit, just can we put this behind us? But they keep on regurgitating it up. And you kind of have to appreciate that now, right? Because you know why it happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to talk about, right? It makes the sport exciting.
Yeah.
It draws new fans into it. If you're on the bad end of it as a driver, at this point, you just have to be like, it's what it is, and you have to accept it. And whether you carry a grudge over it from it or not, you know, that's your personal thing. But yeah, I mean, I've been in the booth where it's snoozers and it's hard to kind of create excitement for people watching. So yeah, when you have this stuff that, creates that excitement, it's always something good.
Has that helped you in the booth understand the, kind of the, I never really got it as far as what, I knew what my job was as a race car driver, what I was trying to do with my team. But I didn't know what the damn objective of the network or the broadcast was. But now I'm like, wow, I really wish I'd have known all this stuff as a driver. You and so many other drivers in our industry are getting this great perspective that they, so I have to imagine that really, really helps you when you're dealing with things outside of the car, media, and all kinds of things.
It really does. It opens your eyes when you can go into the booth and kind of see what all goes on up there and just puts a different perspective, in your head. We're so used to, we are the drivers, we drive the cars, we don't watch the races, right?
Yeah.
Obviously while they're happening, you go rewatch them, but you don't know, and then you don't know the inner workings of it, right? You're just seeing what's on your screen.
Yeah.
And when you're actually up in the booth and in it and doing it and see how much information's up there and what you have to talk about to create enjoyment for the fan watching, that part is super cool. And I've really enjoyed doing the booth.
How hard was it to finish your thought when the producer starts talking in your ear?
So tough.
That is
it takes me forever. I mean, it's like you're mid-sentence and the producer's like either telling you information or counting you down, and you have to pause. You're like,
I almost stopped talking.
Yeah, I know.
Accident. You're not supposed to.
Don't you want to just say, shut up?
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy.
It's like talking in the backswing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like here, you remember we used to introduce ourselves at Bristol?
Yes.
And the
and
echo
you hear the echo,
at Bristol.
and you're like,
and
I'm doing
it's
is that what was happening?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So it's like a delay at Bristol when you introduce yourself. You're like, hey, Ryan Blaney, driver. Hey, Ryan Blaney. It's like 3 words after you're speaking.
That would
Screw
be tough.
you up.
It
So
does.
I heard you talk about that this is because of stage points, and I've heard you just say that it was because it's hard to pass. Those make complete sense. What I didn't hear you say is that there's a lack of respect out there, but I do hear a lot of people insinuating that there's less respect being thrown around to the drivers. So that's my question to you. You don't have to name names, okay? But is there a decrease in respect being shown amongst you drivers?
I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to define, okay, what is a lack of respect and what is you have to race really hard now because that's just the way it is. And I don't know if I think sometimes maybe it's a lack of respect, like, oh, I don't give a about this guy, I'm just going to use him up. But other times I think it's just, you have to race hard. These things, like on road courses, I always point this out, like Indy, Coda, you just guys just bowling over you, right, for no reason whatsoever. And I think some of that is like, the cars are really resilient. So like, I can just use this guy up and then pinball him off these guys and I can go forward. The cars wouldn't handle that back, before this one.
Yep.
So I think that kind of limited to what you can do as far as the aggressive level. I don't know. I'm not going to say I think some guys don't respect other guys, but that's always been the case, right? With certain drivers, like this driver hates this driver. I don't give a about this driver. I'm going to use him up. But yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of been given respect, you kind of just show it to each other, right? And if you don't get it back after like a couple times of showing respect, then it's like, okay, well, this is worthless. I'm not going to show you any. But some guys don't even have that. Some guys don't even show you any respect, and they'll just go out and roll you over and take it. But
you have respect, and you show a lot of respect. So you're not even the best person to ask that question, but you do see what you see on the track, right?
Yeah.
Like you may see, what might be people that are harder to pass than others.
I know I can see it coming if I see two guys like, and a guy that's like, oh, I know how he kind of races. He uses people up, lacks a little respect for maybe this driver in particular. You see it coming. You're like, I know what's going to happen here right in front of me. And sure enough, 9 times out of 10, it happens.
That's actually what you were saying about the Denny and Chase thing. You saw that happening a couple laps before.
Well, they had contact when Amarola hit the fence on a restart. It's just after, it's like coming through turn 4 after a restart, and Amarola hit the wall. Denny and Chase, Denny slid up into Chase, almost identical to what happened 2 laps later on the wreck.
Yeah, and I think that stuff escalates, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you slid up to me once.
I knew. I mentioned that on social media. I was like, I knew when that happened, Chase had already had enough.
Yeah, like his meter was empty.
Yeah. You again.
So it's like if there's one little more thing, like you usually get like 1 or 2. Like, just racing deals. But I think once he kind of did it again, Chase was probably pretty upset.